Welcome, everybody, to Slabstock's interview. I'm your host, Nate, and today we are here with Andrew Thiele. He is one of the artists that is making Topps 2020 project cards, and we are very excited to have him. We're very excited to talk to you today, Andrew, to get your perspective on art and then also on these Topps 2020 projects, and we'll see where the conversation takes us. I think a lot of people will be very excited to get to see your take on this stuff and get to actually hear from an artist perspective, because obviously, as you know, and I know, and everyone who's listening to this knows, is that Topps 2020 project has been insane the last couple of days. The Keith Shore card just sold 99,000 copies. We'll get into that a little bit. I've got some questions about that. So right off the bat, Andrew, I just want to, get a little bit of your background, who you are, art, just let people know, like, who is Andrew Thiele? What makes you tick?
Well, first off, thank you for having me. I love to, talk about what I do. I'm really passionate about what I do, and I love my art. So when people want to inquire about it, I love to, give feedback and start a conversation, because that's what really art is supposed to do. It's supposed to create dialogue and connect people. And, even something like this, I think was such a great project with the 2020 thing, because it is art on one hand, and you have 20 wonderful artists that they're all known for their signature style, and they're bringing a new approach and a new feel to to the card. And when people collect them, I think sometimes people were fans of a player, but then eventually I think people start seeing the different artistic styles that people are bringing to the table, and they start being fans of the art. And, I can't tell you how many, countless, people even said that they didn't even collect art before, and it opened their eyes to, just a whole new form of collecting. And, it's a good entry level into that. So it's for the art lovers, or, for the baseball lovers, but, not for nothing. That's why it's a good infusion of both.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. Aaron and I had a guy, a psychologist on a couple weeks ago.
Oh, awesome.
We talked about the combination of the two worlds and where we see it going, and you are spot on. It's combining people that love baseball. It's combining people that love art.
What was
always
the question,
just look at it,
if you don't mind? Like what did you ask the psychologist? Like, how did that kind of come about? Like, what was the exact kind of question?
We were just, so he likes to study like human behavior, interaction.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He likes to study like Topps 2020 projects brand new.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are like, oh, this isn't going to stay hot. This isn't, people who are baseball card purists are like, oh, I don't want this.
Yeah.
And then there's people that are like more open-minded, and they're like, oh, this is actually sweet, because a lot of these cards are awesome looking.
Yeah.
And they're cool representations of the former card, but with a artistic flair.
Yeah.
20 different artistic flares, right? And so he's like, I really like it. I think it's going to stay. I also think it's going to stay in popularity. I'm sure you do too. But then there's other people on the other end of the spectrum who are like, this isn't a real baseball card.
Yeah.
But I've always thought, we're bringing artists into the baseball realm. I didn't think about card collectors being brought into the art realm, which is probably a very nice little bonus for you.
Yeah. I think it's across both. But yeah, going back to the initial thing. I think any single time that you're infusing passions, whether it be being a writer in sports, that means they're broadcasting, and their sports writing is going to be the best. I think that's when the best work kind of happens, is those intersections. Especially if you're passionate about about sports, and you're making art, and then you find this infusion of the both. I think it's a beautiful thing. So I think that, that's really, really great. And as you just said, it also brings you into, a world, so history about the, baseball, cards and stuff like that. Like, so I'm 39 years old. When I was young, I definitely collected cards. You were a big card collector yourself?
Yeah. I collected probably until I was maybe 12, and then that money went into like Legos and stuff, video games.
Interesting. Okay, very interesting you said that. So yeah, maybe it's about the same thing. So I remember a childhood kind of filled with, I mean, that was one of the first things I remember collecting. And it was my first, it was also, was a social aspect. Now you look at it in retrospect, it's like, you're teaching a kid to, it's like social currency. You wear a t-shirt. Why do you wear a t-shirt with a brand on it? It brings up conversation, so say for instance, if you have a Supreme shirt, you're the kind of guy who shops here, or, you have this kind of shirt, you're a fan of this, it brings you closer, so I think when I was young, I definitely gravitated towards the other people who were kind of collecting. And then also it showed you a bartering system. It showed you, what things were worth. I remember getting like a blue, I don't know if it was like a blue book or whatever book, and then just seeing the value and, just really, going after that. And I think that was really great. And I don't know what year that Ken Griffey card dropped. And that card is like, everyone like speaks about it, right?
Per deck?
But
89.
well, yeah. So it's funny because I look at the 89 card. I'm trying to think if I actually, I definitely remembered that year of Topps. So that year of Topps, so the one that came out, I think it was the 89 as well. So I remember the script, and then I remembered also, a naiveness I had when I first started the collection, with the borders and stuff like that. I didn't know, I didn't really think that it has such a power of it, but it's true. It brought you back to the year it was made, and you had to keep it real to the nostalgia. So I think that you had to like kind of it took me down memory lane of kind of where I was of collecting and a feeling of it, and and I think it was a great thing. I think we stirred up from the original topic, but you
That's
kind of
okay.
took me to the memory lane of the cards.
It's I'm sure people will appreciate knowing that you had a collecting background and that it is something that it brings up a little nostalgia in you to have
Yeah,
made these cards,
yeah.
which people will care about. They just
Hmm.
want to know that, Slab Stocks, Aaron and I, people hated us for a while,
Hmm.
and
And why was that, you think?
just they don't like new stuff. They don't like
Yeah,
there's an old guard of people in the hobby that is just like,
yeah.
I just want everything like it
Purists, yeah.
was.
Hmm.
Nothing ever changed, please. And so when you come in and you shake things up,
Well, it's like that with everything, right? Cars, people who
yeah,
collect cars, they don't want new parts in it. I was really, and I get, oh yeah, that's how it kind of started. Cause I like to know what people collect. It's a very interesting thing what people, and it was funny that you kind of stopped around probably the same age that I kind of stopped. And I try to look back and think about why did I just, like how did it die out? I'm not really sure. So the people who really stuck with it, I think it's really awesome. I love to see people, collect things, especially collect things that, hold, that things hold value and it's, sentimental to them. I think it's super great. But, to your point, some of those purists probably, look back at, look at this right now and think it's like, not traditional, something that, they're not fond of, and other people are really, are really proud of it, and and love it, and obviously, as you see, there's a lot of people into it, which would probably bring up the conversation of the numbers, right? Like it's interesting to see like how did that influx come, right? Like it's crazy to think, and I would actually want to ask you like kind of where it comes from, because I kind of felt like initially you were kind of playing in the realm of, of the purists of the cards, and there's communities, and there's, Facebook groups, and there's, online chats and stuff like that. But then how does that exceed, because think about it, at one point I quote unquote, beat a record, and it was like, and I didn't even know it was a record. It was like, oh, it's 13,000 for the Trout card.
Mhm.
Saladin beat it with 9,000. Then I beat it with 13. And then all of a sudden, Bembola came. It was like 30,000. And now to see this number, it's actually surreal to see. I have no clue how, unless people, that is 100,000 people. It's nuts.
Yeah, it is.
It's really nuts. So it's like, what are people telling more of their friends about it? Are people doubling and tripling it up?
It,
And
it's
they're, and
it's word of mouth, I think. Ben Baller,
Mhm.
one of the artists, right? He has been putting it on his story a ton. I've seen other major places putting it on their stories. ESPN running articles,
Yeah.
right? We've been sharing it.
So what happened? That brings in, a new community, and then a new community. So so that's good for the, I mean, not for nothing, especially during the time of the pandemic. It's like, we spoke about this, my first day back in the studio. This project, mentally, was really great for me. The last day I was here, I was like digitizing files because I didn't know, when my next day was going to be back. And that's kind of weird, going to your studio every day for over 15 years and your building says, we're closing. We're like, closing, so, and then, kind of kept me like kind of, it gives you as an artist something to do and be proud of it. And I also think during the time, collectors, there was a time there was no sports, right? And for the first time ever, and it kind of gave something, we're at a time where people kind of went through their Netflix already, and they're looking for things that really resonate with them, that they really care about, and they want to be a part of. And I think it just came at a super great time as well.
Yeah, there's no better time this could have happened for Tops. With no sports being played.
Yeah,
this was the one new thing.
And so where do you think it goes from here, though? So it's funny because I always want to ask a psychologist this, that I don't know what it is about and I'm sure it's not just me, it's a bunch of people. If you think about, artists, like how their first album is always kind of like, always kind of better than their second and third. And it's also like, when you find out about something like an early stage of Tops, like, and about this project, you love it, and then so many people kind of get involved in it. There's a psychology thing with me that when too many people get involved with something, I automatically kind of get turned off. I could love a restaurant, and then it'll be like, oh, you hear so many people talking about it. And then all of a sudden, maybe I'm just a jaded New Yorker, but like, I've been there. I don't, like you kind of like get over it almost. So I hope this doesn't, on that level, I hope those numbers don't take away for what it was, because I was beyond thrilled of, on this is loaded kind of question, is that, and then also like, I just want to tell you, when I first got involved with it, what I loved about it was, I called it, it was like, wasn't about hype. It was more about what the collectors liked. I liked that the collectors didn't look at other people's numbers. So besides an artist, I'm also curator. I do a whole bunch of stuff. And anytime I would run art programs, especially business-wise, I say, what are the metrics on this person? I'm like, do you like it or not? Like, it's not like, why are you asking a number of something to make, because if they have a certain amount of followers, it makes you shift your opinion of if you want their art in your place. So what I liked about, this project was that, people genuinely like, I love your style. I love the card, and vice versa. If you went to, Sophia Chang or MC or any of those other guys, like Kishore, like you were a fan of their art, because, the Kishore stuff, you're either going to love or hate it. It's not really going to be in between on that stuff. And it's, again, I always looked at everyone, throughout the project. It wasn't about hype. It was all about what people, resonated with. And now all of a sudden, so where do you think things are going to go from here of hitting that bubble?
I do think that the 99,000 print run on the Ken Griffey yesterday will probably be like you were saying, once something gets popular, you're kind of like, oh, let me find the next thing. An artist gets popular. I don't know, take any artist from the last couple. Take Lorde, I guess, right? Kind of a quiet artist, has a really good first album, gets popular. Second album, didn't like it as much.
Yeah.
Same thing is happening here, where it's like slowly growing in popularity, and all of a sudden 100,000 cards sell. Well, there's going to be a lot of people that probably see that and are like, oh,
yeah,
if 100,000 cards sell, you're still going to get the people that just want the complete set of every artist.
Yeah.
But the people that are looking to buy to flip, I think will drop back a little bit. Unless it's like a major player, somebody releases a Derek Jeter or another Mike Trout, I could see huge print runs on that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I do think it'll peel back a little bit, because I don't think anybody saw 100,000 cards selling. I don't think Tops saw 100,000 cards.
I definitely don't think so. I mean, it's amazing, and congratulations to him. Congratulations to, everyone, because I always feel like, when, especially working with brands, like it should be a win throughout. It should be a win for the artist who gets commissioned to be a part of it. It should be a win for the brand and the awareness they kind of get. And it should be a win for the consumer who gets to collect and speak to other people. So it should be 100% a win for everyone. Someone once asked me, because again, I collected, that's where I was kind of going before, that I collected, but I wasn't 100% in the know of the now of the cards. Like, so now all of a sudden, like I get people and they're sending me like all these, like, oh, this is going to go on eBay for this, and all these ranking and numbers. And I kind of like shrug my shoulders and like, I don't, let's say I don't know or care, but me doing, anything. So I just did the cheater. And I love that everyone loved the card, and it had like this golden kind of like feel to it. And, for me, it was also very, it was very personal because, it's a card that my family, oh, you're doing baseball cards? Where's the Jeter? Where's the Maddox? Where's the Dwight Gooden? Those are like the ones they kind of like, asked for. And I just feel like as an artist, your numbers aren't your responsibility. You have art making, and then you have, the business of art, and like art making, your responsibility is to tell the story of, of the artist. I mean, of the player. And that's what I want to do is just, show the history in it, enlighten that person, bring out that card as much as it can. And then, there's a competition factor of you versus yourself. And you want to, anything you do as an artist or you do in an interview is be the best version, of yourself. Everything else, what art I kind of remove myself from. And I just do that to the fact is like, I put, a lot of, effort into kind of everything I do. And then if you just start judging things from what people give attention to, then all of a sudden it means like, oh, they didn't give attention to X, Y, and Z. So that means it wasn't as good. It doesn't really, so you have to.
If you start chasing clout, you stop making what you enjoy, right?
I love how you said that. Now, not for nothing, people, it's hard not to like kind of see those other things, especially if you're an artist and you're, making a business from it, right? Like, because that's really kind of what it is. But, I kind of, again, I remove myself from that stuff, and everything else is a bonus. So they say, oh, this sold, the Jeter car sold 20 something thousand, and this. I'm like, oh, that's great. But you don't really know what's what. You could give yourself all the, even Joshua Bidet sold, I saw like 60,000 in Nolan Ryan. I'm like, what? Like Nolan Ryan, and that's great. Does that mean, but think about the numbers this week about what people, are doing. Like, so, Mark McGuire is my next, is the next drop, but Mark McGuire wasn't like a big hit from, kind of before. Let's say he wasn't a hit, but, certain players that you said do really well, right? Like, and then other times that I feel like the overall market is like kind of going up, so it's kind of interesting to see, how, how many, like what people are buying into. And like when you said psychology, and that's what intrigued me, is I do like to know the psychology of the consumer, the psychology of, why people, kind of get into things, what people, and even if you don't like something, what don't you like about it, and that doesn't mean, me is not good. You just want to know, like, get.
And it doesn't mean you should switch what you're doing if somebody doesn't like it.
100%. Pretend like somebody didn't like your podcast, then you would just not, not do it.
There's plenty of those people.
Oh, yeah. It's perspective, Yeah. So if my perspective kind of hurts you, then it really says something more about, yourself than what you're doing. So that's good.
Two things that you brought up that I kind of wanted to cover. One is about Derek Jeter. One is a question that you don't have to answer if you don't want, but I am curious. Mm-hmm. Derek Jeter, for my money, that is my favorite card of yours so far. I love the look of it, with the little Yankees field on the bottom and Derek Jeter in the middle, and a great looking card.
Thank you.
I was looking it up on eBay. It's like $115 right now. Kind of wish I'd bought one when it came out. Yeah. I haven't been buying any Topps 2020 projects because we've been reporting on it. So I don't want to,
wow.
I don't want to be like, reporting on it and buying into it. But I will say,
not for nothing. I think if you know it, you have more knowledge than me. I think it's a good thing for you to do. But anyways, keep going on that.
But a great looking card.
Thank you.
And for those of you that are wondering, the print run is 20,974. For those of you listening at home, so pretty good. My question, so great looking card. My question on print run, and you don't have to answer this. Don't feel pressured into answering this. But is it better for you if there is a higher print run? Like, do you get like a commission off of? Did they just give you a lump sum at the start, or do you get a commission?
I think my management kind of handled the numbers, but I think everyone gets a little, some residuals on it. I'm not sure, what they kind of worked out, or what is it, right? Like, because but I just, again, looking at those numbers, it's just interesting to see, what does well and what doesn't, and it's, but I'm in the business. I want, again, everyone to win, and no one's losing.
Yeah.
No one's losing unless you do what Upper Deck did, which scares you, right? And then, isn't that the whole story with the graffiti? Just started printing out an absurd amount, and then it kind of like loses value. The only thing I kind of want to make sure that, when things are scarce, people want to actually acquire it. That's the way I always was. With sneakers, I was like a big sneaker collector in the early 2000s, you could say, and again, same philosophy. I didn't like kind of look up the resellers. Like, I bought what I liked, and that's always kind of been the way I did things. But I do remember, like, I had a Dunk collection, and then like 4 or 5 years ago, I looked at the prices on everything, which I don't really care too much about, but it was interesting to kind of see, like, wow, things are going like these are next to, nothing for what they were. Mm-hmm. And then in recent time, I don't know how there was like a resurgence in that whole thing, but now all of a sudden Dunks are skyrocketing. And it's crazy to see, but I guess it's like stocks, right? That's like, or anything else. So, but I think that, once this project is kind of done, I don't think they should kind of like overdo it and kind of keep it limited to, maybe this program, and then not have it something that's going to be on and on, like kind of,
do 2020, maybe do 2030, 2040, but don't do 2021, right?
Yeah, don't do. I was going to say, even part of the time, because I think 10 years is probably business mind. 10 years is almost like a birth of a whole new consumer. What 5 years is like, wow, remember that? I think will probably be like the kind of key of, you kind of getting back into something, for the people who aren't always the collectors. But I think that it's really good for them to kind of keep it like that. So now I'm like actually looking at someone, said like, it's true if Ben Boller's cards did this, like the first cards he did only did 1,300. Does that mean like those cards are going to be on eBay for more money because there's less of them? Like, so I think there's, to answer the question about that, I think there's like give or takes to everything. I think if you do a higher run, there's probably some, some financial stuff on the front end, and actually more rewarding to know that, these people want your stuff. Like, that's the biggest pat in the back is that. It's like, like people.
Is that 20,000 of your Derek Jeter cards were sold?
Yeah.
Also, another pat on the back is that there's 20,000 out there, and people are still spending $100+ per card.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal.
And I remember my mom bought a Willie Mays, and then she told her friend, next thing you know, she's on eBay. She's like, oh my God, they're going for, and I have no clue even what the numbers on eBay mean, from 500 to 1,000. I'm like, I have no clue, and I hope I don't sound naive to it, but I feel like, it's just interesting to kind of see. But again, just like you said about, kind of getting involved in those financials. I don't, it's kind of like betting on your own game. And, I really choose not to go to I don't have any. So, and the ones I do have, I'll probably like kind of keep, so, but I am doing some signed ones, coming soon.
Oh, nice.
So, and it's funny because I have about, if they're listening, I'm always a man of my word. So when the first card dropped, again, the naiveness, right? Like I didn't know. So I probably had a whole bunch of people say, "Oh, I love your art. Do you mind signing it for me?" I'm like, "Sure." Like I had no, I just thought it was a compliment. Like, yeah, whatever you need. So anyone who I spoke to, like I could see from the message that whoever I said yes to, and then I realized like, oh, wait 1 second. And then people kept on telling me like, hey, you should put these signed ones and do these, people are selling for this price. I'm like, why would I sell my signature? But then somebody like kind of schooled me to say, hey, these are the tiers. That's how things kind of work. So I'm going to do that as well. But I don't believe that, me signing something, it should be like, I am going to actually give, people like a little bonus on it, because I always, liked when I open up a CD, I used to like to look through the credits, and, I used to like to, I'm an artist and designer, right? So that's stuff I really liked, but I do remember the experience of the Topps card with the gum. So I am going to, I'm gonna make sure that, I give them value. And it's not about, the resale stuff is great. You got, but you as a person, if you're spending X, Y, and Z, I want you to kind of, I want you to feel that. So I have some special things that are going to come out with those, with those additions, just to make sure that personally that, I make them feel, like they, they got their value, and make them feel special in a certain way. So I think that.
And how can people acquire these signed editions of yours?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna, you could just go to my IG, Artec NYC, and by next week I'm gonna have the store launching, and it's gonna be starting out with the Jeter card, because I'm actually gonna go, because I have to kind of backtrack, right? And then after that it's gonna be if my Mark McGuire drops, then the following week, so would be and then I'm gonna sneak in the 5 cards that I did beforehand, so. I'll sneak in the ones that I did before, but then, moving on forward, I would do the release with Topps. And then after that, I'll have like those special releases. And again, I want to give somebody, everyone who gets something a little bit special, just so that, number one, that the experience is great, and two, that it values your time. And to be like looking back at, at your wall, and you're giving something to someone that they kind of keep forever, and that they will want to give their kids. So.
If you're listening to this and wondering what else Andrew has out there besides the Derek Jeter, he's got Nolan Ryan, and that is around $160 a card right now on eBay. He's got Sandy Koufax, which is around $370 on eBay.
So how does that work? Why don't you tell me how does the Koufax for $370 actually work on eBay versus that?
Somebody just puts it up, and I'm looking at the last one that sold was on auctions today, and 17 bids, $370.
Wow.
And Sandy Koufax had a print run of 2,149.
Yeah.
The Mike Trout, your Mike Trout, is around a bit all over the place. I've seen as low as 125, but as high as 200.
Yeah.
And that print one was 13,200. And then the Willie Mays, the last one sold for $655, and that print one was 1,464. So he's got numbered cards out here. Yeah. Obviously, a bunch of big name guys. Pretty good price on that Willie Mays there, $655.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how it works. So, but the biggest thing for me is I also get I get a lot of random different emails a day, and just connecting with people. One is always like how a player meant something to them. Think about what Willie Mays, and he's with the New York Giants, and people sharing the story about how their father took him to a game, or Sandy Koufax, and those stories. Like I think that's also the thing of when people are doing a card. You have these heroes, and I should say the word heroes, because that's what athletes kind of are. We're like like your heroes kind of growing up, and each person, whether it be Tony Gwynn, or whether it be everyone on the Cal Ripken, everyone on those roster, the 20 athletes are A1 athletes that they did a lot for the city. They did a lot for for the team, their people. And I feel like it's your responsibility to highlight them a certain way. So when things take off, it's like, oh wow, people really really do love this, and I think it's such an awesome thing. But my at bat as an artist each and every time is just to make sure that that is done. That's my responsibility. Same way as like a musical artist is like, you shouldn't be concerned with how many records or ringtones you sold. The reason I said ringtones, it probably shows my age, is because I feel like well, people start like you're adjusting the craft to a popularity thing of what's selling, what's not. I think you should always just keep it 100% on your craft, and you should always put that first, and then your core fans will kind of grow with you. So I think
Yeah.
that would be a good thing.
You see it all the time in music, right? Taylor Swift started out as a country artist
Yeah,
and became much more popular doing pop.
yeah,
And all of a sudden she is firmly into, and now she's backtracked a little bit and doing
yeah, yeah,
stuff that's less poppy and more,
yeah.
I don't know what you call it, but you get all these artists that find a little fame and then dive deep into what people want instead of what they want. And it's
Hmm.
probably not enjoyable. And I'm sure the same thing would happen to a artist that paints or, street art or anything like that. If you start doing stuff that
Yeah,
people want instead of what you want, you lose joy
yeah,
in the
yeah.
process.
That's why I like to I like the athlete mentality, the Kobe mentality of this, of just giving everything that you got, the game, and being very heads on of that, and not getting sidetracked with anything else except just trying to be your best. I think that's really important.
I do have a Tops 2020 specific question for you.
Mhm.
Uh, how did it come about? So how did, I'm sure Tops contacted management, but
Mhm.
like they only chose 20 artists,
Yeah.
that's a pretty big honor right there. How did you get chosen? You know?
Well, again, my manager kind of set it up, so I wasn't really, you know, in terms of the decision process, I'm not 100% sure how that back end works. But going to what you said, right, it was like, yes, it is a super honor, and I loved also again that each of the artists were all from different, cut from different cloths, and they all had different followings from small to large, and I like the diversity in front of it. Usually sometimes people get they hop on, quote unquote, the hype beast train, and whatever's hype of now, like they kind of get, they kind of get, and becomes the same usual suspects over and over doing the same things. Like it's the whole thing about, even brands and quote unquote influencer marketing of just getting the same people to kind of talk about it. But if I had a brand, I would want to have different individuals who aren't just gonna, just it's not just another check or an opportunity, like something they really, really care about, and if you go back and that guy Blake, I really love his work, but his passion for what it you can see it, you can see Saladin's passion in what he's doing, and I think that it's really important to that they connected with those artists that really cared about it. Like I think that was really, really important. But yeah, I really don't know the decision making,
Right.
on that. But I've been through programs where they would like an artist, but they'll say we need a specific kind of, and then it could be like a demographic they're going for. It could be a certain metrics of, and that's the scary thing too. Is it's like a lot of times people are looking for almost like a mutual benefit of saying, we're going to get this person to do this, but they have this audience. So this, we could tap into their audience. And I get the marketing side of it. That's why, back in the day, people from different music genres used to do different things together. Run DMC and Aerosmith. Aerosmith's getting Run DMC's audience and vice versa. And there's a great exchange. But there's also, a level of integrity of the project, I think that they both had for it. So altogether, to go back to it, I'm not sure what their decision making was, but overall brands, I think I think it's important for them to make sure they pick artists that really resonate with their program. A lot of my stuff too are is it's layered, it's textured, it's grungy, but that's me, right? So if, you showed me, something, that wasn't really like my cup of tea, I think it's my responsibility as an artist to say, no, I don't do that. And I think it's a brand's responsibility not to just get people that are in the mix, but to mix it up and get people of high, low, and in between that really, fit what they think is good. And on that note, I think they did a great job of that. And I think I'm really happy with to being around good company. Shout out to Mr. Cartoon, who to me is like, a living legend. His documentary just dropped, and he's probably hotter than ever. Think about it, Eminem is giving him shout outs, and he doesn't even do that, right? And and that you have that, but then Kishore, I never knew his work before, and I didn't even know really what his following was, but I know it's like, wow, this guy has a style, and that's what I liked. And to see him now reach 100,000 more people, I mean, I think is a great thing as well. So,
it is interesting because, we were talking about this before. I was not a great artist growing up. Couldn't even draw a straight line. But it is interesting because I've been looking at all this art, and, some of it, I was looking at your Moral Compass series online. And, a lot of it was actually quite cool. And I hadn't really ever thought about it before. And then you look at somebody like Keith Shores, and you were saying earlier, either you love it or you hate it.
My stuff too. You love it or hate it. It's not really, so.
And I don't want to get into specific artists and if I like their cards or not, in case they come on this podcast in the future. But there is definitely, like, I love your Derek Jeter card.
Thank you.
I think it's incredible. Ermsey's stuff, I understand why people like it, but like for me personally,
it's taste. Yeah,
I just can't. I'm just confused by it. But it is interesting, looking at how each guy gets a take on all 20 cards, and then you can look at all these different artist flares. And so maybe somebody doesn't like your Mike Trout, and they like Ermsey's Mike Trout, but maybe they don't like King Saladine's Ichiro, but they like Sophia Chang's Ichiro, and it's perfect.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about art, right? And not to go into like art history, but you have like a Rembrandt, which is like a traditional Renaissance painting kind of style. You have Mark Rothko, which is like abstract style, but it's minimalism. It's like a plain red canvas. And how do you compare the two? They're both art, right? But I compare an artist, right? When I think, are they making things from themselves? And at the end of the day, like that's it. Like they're honest to their craft, and their intentions of what they're doing matches their aesthetic, meaning that they intended to do, like Ermsey does what he does. And, even me, like what I collect, because I also do collect art, like, what I like, you like a certain thing. So certain people like a little bit more illustrative style. Certain people like a more abstracted style. Some people like a more realistic style, and it's all taste. And it's not to say again that one thing is better than other. I don't know what great example is what people have for breakfast. You can have cereal, pancakes, or eggs. If I want eggs in the morning, that doesn't mean that pancakes aren't good. Maybe you just don't like them or you don't want them. It's just preference. And again, each one of the artists, what I did like was that they kept it true to them. And now all of a sudden, what's really cool is when an artist drops, you don't need to even see the name now, because now you know. And that's also that's also something that they probably did choose each artist for, is that they did have their own specific style. And there are so many, different people, like, Sophia Chang with her, typography style over the picture, like she does that, or, whoever it was that, they have an assortment of that as well. And I think that that's, that shows who an artist is also, is like, it took you years to develop, because besides of me being an artist, I'm also a designer, so, I guess, my business of, so I create art for myself, and then I kind of create for others. And, creating for others, I've been working with the likes of Adidas, ESPN, Pepsi, even, going back to ESPN, I've been, working with them for almost eight to 10 years, like 2011, yeah, like 9 years or whatever. And this is doing stuff for MLB, doing stuff for NBA. And, again, though, it's like, are you going in and saying, I'm gonna give you the best version of you, or my job is actually to give the best version of them, so there's a distinction also between the two, and but when you hire an artist, like, an artist is like, their stuff actually is the draw, and that's a great thing.
Well, Andrew, we're going to wind this up. I got a couple quick hitting questions for you,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't mind. And then I'll let you have the floor in case you have anything you want people to know about, anything you have upcoming, in the art world or in the baseball world. Or
Yeah.
So couple quick hitting questions here. What, it may not have come out yet, but what was your favorite card of the Topps 2020 project to make?
My favorite. Wow, that's a great question. Wow. I love the old. Some of the old ones were a lot of fun. Like, the Clemente, the Robinson, like those are really great cards. The Ichiro has the same kind of feel as Jeter, with then some are like scenic, and then it's like, so it depends. But I played around with it, and some I had trouble with. I had Mariano's like card now is super great, but that actually gave me a little bit of trouble at first, because I didn't like, what he was wearing, the positioning, So I think that Trout was like an easy one, because the form had, and a lot of strength to the form of it. So I think you kind of look at that stuff, when you're doing a card, and then other stuff you kind of, it kind of evolves, right? So my McGuire is dropping. I didn't actually have fun with that. I struggle with that one a lot, because I redo things a million times so I get it right. But you'll find it interesting when you really look at it. I have like the whole fan background is like little pictures of him, and you'll see like when it drops, it will be pretty cool. But you kind of struggle with those, like making that the best. So the ones I had fun with, I think Henderson was really good as well. I think anything where the original assets were like really strong, mm-hmm. and then also like the old school kind of version, so it kind of went back and forth, So sorry for a vague answer.
Oh,
and the next one I look forward to was Strawberry. Strawberry was I said Strawberry good, and just because I was an original Met fan as well as the Yankees, so I have an obligation to make sure that when people talk about you get, for Queens, you got to make it really nice. So yeah, obviously I look forward to that one.
All right. If you were to, well, actually, I had a question that came off of your answer. Mm-hmm. When did you start? I can't imagine that. I imagine each card took a bit of time to make. When did you start creating these? How long did it take to create all 20?
Well, I work like a crazy artist. Like I kind of like pretend like you have 20 pictures in a room, and I kind of like to do little, and then, see how things kind of develop.
So if it was like your Thanksgiving dinner plate, you eat a little turkey and a little mashed potatoes and a little cranberry instead of eating one at a time?
Yeah. And I'm very bad at doing things one at a time. Like that's how, like, I'm very like ADD-ish in terms of doing little here. And then also like, you start picking up stuff as well, throughout, so it's, and you could kind of see, see the difference. Like the Willie Mae stuff was like, you could kind of see more of less scenic, but more like, cause that's really my traditional style is like, I kind of, do a lot of collaging, and it's like ripped things on top of ripped things and peeling back and adding. But then, some added to the scene, and then it's like, so it's funny because then you start going in one way. I could see like the period which I did them, because you can kind of see where your mind was at the time. But yeah, it's definitely like little by little. And then as soon as the releases kind of come back, I kind of revisit them. I had to like kind of to force, digitizing a lot of stuff right before the pandemic. Again, I haven't been here since, so I had like all these like little paintings like kind of around, and I kind of had to find a way to just finish the portrait, and then get all the elements. So some stuff that I would have done by hand, I kind of had to do on the computer, so I kind of had to like force, again, doing the portrait over here, doing the number over here, the old jersey, old tickets. And I kind of had to, so that this was just an interesting process with that.
Okay, so not one at a time, just little by
Scattered.
little, every single
Yes.
card, and they
Yeah.
probably all got finished around the same time then?
Yeah. Same
Did
way
it
if
take
somebody,
you months, weeks?
um, so I did like a special, I'm having like a Heritage Series thing come out. So I did like a special, not a Jeter card, but one that kind of like a Heritage Series to New York and say the Bronx. But and I'm gonna do that for all the major cities. It's kind of separate, So I spent maybe 15 to 20 hours on that, like from this weekend till now. So each card, was like that, but just kind of like again. Throughout a different period. So you had to like kind of work on again the portrait and then the composition, and then you sometimes you have to look at you kind of have to like right before it goes out you have to kind of look at it and say I always ask myself if you weren't the artist and you were seeing this, would you buy it? Would you love it? And you never want to give yourself a 50-50 answer. How good is everything 1 to 10 without the 7? Because if once you take out the 7, 6 is bad, 8 is good, right? Then you start like anything that's kind of like borderline, then you gotta step it up, So yeah.
Yeah, don't accept anything less than 100% of what you enjoy.
Yeah, there you go. But sometimes also you could kind of like be your own worst critic, So you never know. It's a balance between the two.
Yeah, it's like every time I'm sure you cook at home.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do some cooking. Everyone cooks, and you might cook something, and whoever's eating it enjoys it, but you yourself is like, I could have done better.
Yeah, and no, I mean, but I have no care or responsibility.
True.
It's more like a game is ending and then all of a sudden Kobe scores 28, but then he's home watching the video and torturing himself over, and again, it's not about the results, about what he did wrong or right. And then it's like, but sometimes you effortlessly score, certain, like I don't have, art is the only thing that I have like, like this. That's why they say art is like never done, right? Because
Yep.
some of these abstract paintings will be in my office and I'll paint over them relentlessly. And it's probably, if you saw them, like, bro, you should have just kept it as is. And you gotta like, you gotta balance that.
I suppose if you do get to a point where you're like, I have achieved the top of my game, you would never want to continue. So
Yeah.
it's always the chase.
I think I think it's also a tortured artist. They like to feel pain in what they do. Instead of saying this is fun, they like they like the agony they put into everything sometimes makes it feel a certain way.
All right, I can respect that at the very least. I don't now. Obviously, musical artists, right? They will join up, and Justin Bieber will sing with Ariana Grande, and that's some new song that I don't remember the name of that I saw on Twitter the other day. I don't know if artists do that, but if you were to join up and do a collaboration with any of the other Tops 2020 project artists, who would you choose?
Cartoon. It's like my, I mean, that's the whole SA Studios are my guys. His management is with me. So. And I love those guys. Being there for the first time, seeing LA culture meets New York culture. That's like kind of like, and why to LA? I think will be something very interesting in that dynamic. And plus the styles are so different. But I mean, he's amazing. Super amazing on the level of what he does and his dedication to the craft and what he represents as a whole is just next level.
Well, maybe for Topps 2021 project, because they're making too much money from this, they'll have to have collabs between you guys, huh?
Hey, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. We actually got some posters from him yesterday,
Oh,
or
dope.
Aaron did. So we got 3 posters of the same kind. They're
What kind of posters?
So it's LA,
Mm-hmm.
and it says like Clippers, and it's got like a
Okay, the Clippers. Yeah.
Chevelle or whatever.
His car. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's sweet. It's sweet looking.
Nice.
I looked at it. I said, man, I'm not a huge art guy, but I would hang this on my wall.
Yeah. But you have to think about it. Yeah, like you have a stadium behind you. You just got to find people who do what you love as well. So they do art, right? But maybe they're doing art about baseball or something else that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And sometimes also our artists bring out something of you that you didn't even know. So that's also a good thing.
I had no idea. Now I just need somebody to do the exact same thing, but for Milwaukee.
Ah, there you go. Or maybe you should do a local Milwaukee like talent search and and see,
get some background stuff for the wall back there.
There you
go. Well, I'm out of questions. Was there anything specific you wanted to cover on this Topps 2020 project?
It was thank you so much for having me. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone who tunes in, to you, to the project, and anyone who follows me. I can't express the gratitude I have for, each one of the emails or calls or anyone that didn't know about my art that now we're connected through this project. I think it's a great thing. I have the store launching soon, so you can go to my social and see that. And you could check out, I guess, all of my handles. And that's at Artech NYC, which is my main social. Andrew Thiele, AndrewThiele.com. That's like my main personal art, and then my other commercial projects I kind of run at artechnyc.com.
All right. And lastly, speaking of projects, do you have any upcoming projects that you'd like to let anybody know about? Maybe anything that you got coming up in June, July that you're like, hey, this is going to be pretty cool. Check that out.
Well, the reason why I'm like shrugging my shoulders is because I had a couple amazing things that were supposed to kind of come up before this whole pandemic. And then it's got to wait for retailers and for sports to be alive again, so I could get back to that stuff. But I definitely had some dream collaborations on that aspect. But not for nothing, I continuously kind of make work. Whether through this project or through commissions and other stuff, and the other big brand stuff and stuff to look at after they happen, when they happen. But as artists, we're always pumping out work. So check it out, and then you'll see it.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Andrew. Everyone who's listening to this podcast, thank you for tuning in. Hope you go check out Andrew's work. And go check out his Artech NYC Instagram page. Got some good stuff on there. And at the very least, if you see his cards popping up, maybe snag one or two on Topps 2020 project. So thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, man.